Portions of our programming have been pre-recorded. The Good Neighbor Network, WGNS, Murfreesboro, Smyrna. Flagship station for MTSU Sports.
Most people know that their insurance can provide them with coverage for the many life's mishaps. But I can help you also unlock discounts, save money, and get benefits with Farmers Insurance policy perks. Whether we're discussing home or auto insurance, I am here to help you understand these great perks. Call me, Mark Lewis, at 615-625-7070 for a quote, and you can get a whole lot of something with Farmers policy perks.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available select Farmers branded policies underwritten by Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate.
Are you concerned with the state of America, your state, and your community? Then you're in the right place. This is the Rutherford Magazine Show with host Mike Sparks. He and guests are here to talk local politics, history, faith, and freedom.
You're listening to the Magazine Show. I'm your host, Mike Sparks. I'm just getting a little adjusted here with our trusted producer, Jackson Smith. How you doing?
I'm holding up pretty all right.
And we've got our intern who's always trustworthy. How you doing, brother? Everything good?
I am great, Mike.
How's work?
We haven't been in.
You had?
Yeah, Town Smyrna closed for the week, actually. There was only one person in at the golf course, I believe. I believe it was just Hal. I'm not sure, but I believe
Hal
it was just
working?
Yeah, I believe he just went in just to do some business, and then
what about
everybody
Brian
else.
Hercules? Is he working?
I have no idea.
I've seen some guys on the, I guess, working on some of the lines must have been busted or something. So heart goes out to those guys at them freezing temperatures the other day, you know. Hey, where'd my milkshake go? I thought somebody brought me a milkshake.
I might have drank it already.
I want to welcome David. It's Weil.
That's correct. Weil.
Okay.
And
like Brian,
worthwhile.
What is it?
Like worthwhile shakes
Worthwhile,
or burgers.
Okay. Owner of Steak Shack Murfreesboro, and Brian Sweat with Mechanics on a Mission. Is that right?
That's correct. Mechanics
So
on
I've
a
got
Mission.
your bio here that I just got. And you're pastor of, is it Our Church Ministries?
It is. It's kind of like Abbott and Costello, who's on first. You know, Our Church.
Oh,
I know
okay,
it's your
cool.
church, but what's the name? It's
Yeah.
Our Church.
You're not one of them Christians, are you?
I am.
Are you really?
Yeah.
What caused you to become a believer? What happened?
So I grew up in a pastor's home, so I was always around the
you
Word
wild,
of God.
wild kid.
Probably a little bit, but
Doesn't that true though? Pastors' kids usually.
well, it's
rambunctious.
it's kind of interesting that all my brother, sister, and myself are all now in the ministry. So
Really?
whatever my parents were selling, we bought.
Good.
And we followed Jesus
Well,
our lives.
sometimes it takes a few years.
It did. It did for me. I was the youngest, a little spoiled, so it took me
Yeah.
a little time, but so happy to be able to follow the Lord with my life.
Yeah. Somebody don't know how to spell vanilla.
Yeah.
I said I want a vanilla milkshake.
I didn't write
you?
that.
VINILLA. Vanilla. I know that ain't how you
Lord
spell
have
it. Is that you?
I did not write that. I'm going
David-
to take a picture. I'm going to do some coaching with
David
my
brought us
staff.
all some milkshakes, and I
You
want
might need to have a team meeting
vanilla.
tomorrow morning.
Lord
with
have
your
mercy.
guys.
That Cliff Sharp with Greenhouse Ministries is going to call in here in a minute or two. Appreciate all Cliff does, taking in some of these folks, trying to make a difference in this cold weather for a lot of folks that homeless and having a tough time out there. But I often talk about God working in mysterious ways, and sometimes it's just so obvious that we don't most people, oh, it's just coincidental. It's just happenstance. But I call them synchronicities, God wink moments. And the other day, we got a call to my sister who's in a nursing home. They said, man, she's in the ER. And they were asking about the do not resuscitate. Like, who's in charge? And my wife's calling me. I was on my way to my friend Marty Luffman's. He had a pipe leak or something, and I'm not a plumber, but I thought, well, I'll go try to help Marty. And my wife said, hey, who is the do not resuscitate? Who's the person? I don't want to be me. I don't want to take my sister off life support. She's in bad shape, so we called my sister. My sister didn't want to do it, my other sister, and so went to the hospital. And I'm gonna tell you, man, Stonecrest Medical Center just took good care of my sister. Her blood pressure was real low, and I guess they call it failure to thrive, and she's 61. She had a brain tumor at 30 and had a bad fall about 5 years ago. But anyways, they're doing a really good job. And I just put it on Facebook. Hey, pray for my sister. I believe in the power of prayer. I've witnessed miraculous things happen. And man, I was sitting there just kind of chilling and just, seeing my sister her mind's not there. She can't walk, and she's just not the same person she was. And really just, it's very sad. I mean, I'm used to it because I've been around her. But man, let me tell you how this is so cool. My sister, the one thing she likes in life is a milkshake. Seriously. And this joker knocks on the door and got like 12 or 15 milkshakes for the nursing staff and my sister and me. Tell me if that ain't a God thing.
That is absolutely a God thing. So like I said, so many times people think it's coincidence, but it's not. God's hands at work all over, all around us. If we lift up our eyes and look for it.
Yes. I think that's Cliff. Cliff Sharp, how you doing?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing great.
Did you hear me talk about how God used Steak and Shake owner David here to bring some milkshakes to the hospital?
I called just about that time. I was just going to get online and it cut me off, so I didn't get to hear the end of the story.
Well, I've got a sister that's been in nursing home for about 5 years. Really sad. She lost everything to her name, and she was on life support in a coma after her fall. She had a brain bleed, and my oldest sister come by, who used to be a nurse, come by the house about 5 years ago, and my sister had made the comment. She was like, "Look, my sister was in a coma for six weeks, and we didn't really know what to do. I was calling Humana Insurance. They weren't worth a flip. Never buy Humana Insurance. Just saying." She had Humana Insurance for years, and really just disappointed me with their lack of caring, lack of service. So I vowed to tell 10,000 people about not to use them. I'm going to cost them business. And when you were affected personally by this stuff, it builds conviction. And I prayed. I said, Lord, if you're not going to heal my sister, then you need to take my sister. And I've never prayed that. Well, I have since then. I have prayed for some folks to pass on who were ready to go, And I said, Lord, if you're not going to heal my sister, you need to just take my sister. And I hate to say that, man. I literally, because I always pray with my wife, been doing that for like 30 years, and walked out of the house, walked to my truck, and my wife come running out with the phone. She said, Vicki, open her eyes. The hospital's on the phone. She started talking. And you could say, oh, it's just coincidental. I don't think it is. But speaking of how God's working, I appreciate, Cliff, you and Jane for all the work you do at Greenhouse Ministries. How are things going?
It's going very, very well. We are just so pleased, again, to have Christy, who is my daughter, and was on the original board, and she is now our director. And so now I can say when somebody comes and asks me something that's a little difficult, I just say, hey, you need to talk to Christy about that.
Exactly. Well, I think I gave you a 6-minute heads up that I was going to have you on the air.
Right. But anyway, we are very pleased. It's amazing with the economy the way it is, how our numbers are increasing. We used to average, we always said we average somewhere between 25 and 20-25 families a day. And today, we're seeing sometimes as many as 70 families in one day.
Wow. Yeah.
So our numbers have just really, really increased. And, that is economy. A lot of it is just increased the number of people in Rutherford County.
Yes.
And, you know, we're going to have about the same number of folks needing, who are underserved and needing, regardless of, you know, of what it is, because that's just with population.
Yes.
But, you know, and a lot of the people, I talked to a lady the other day, and, you know, they had an income and they were working and everything, but they said, you know, we just can't make ends meet.
Yeah.
And so it really wasn't that they were hungry. It was that they needed food so they could use their money someplace else.
Yes.
And so, you know, that's just a really important, you know, piece that we're there, that we can help them with food. And, you know, the food boxes that we give them, you know, if you look at it, you know, you're talking about, you know, $50-$60 worth of food.
I bet.
And sometimes more.
Yes.
So that will help them stretch their money, so maybe, you know, they can pay their electric bill, or maybe pick up some medicine or things like that they need.
Yes.
But the numbers have really increased in the past, I would say, 6 to 7 months.
What are you needing right now? If you had a wish list, if there's 2 or 3 things that y'all need, what are they?
You know, it's always money, and one of the things that we say for money is that money or donations. You know, just think if you had 50 families come in for food, you know, that's 50 jars of peanut butter.
Yes.
And you know, at $2.50 a jar, you know, that's a pretty good chunk of change.
Yes.
And so, you know, food donations, we can probably buy it better than, you know, somebody could go to the store and buy it.
Yeah.
Although, you know, there's a lot of benefit personally to going in the store and picking things out and knowing that, you know, you've actually given something that is personally helped someone.
Yes, sir.
So I would say that. Number 2 is always volunteers, because we run on volunteers. When we started Greenhouse in the beginning, the 2 things we wanted to do, one was we wanted to help more than just give somebody some food or something like that. We wanted to try to develop relationships, and you know, relationships in building trust.
Yes.
And so, but the second was the need for volunteers. You know, our community, like so many communities, I think especially ours, is full of people saying, "What can I do to help?"
Exactly.
And so, you know, we want to make sure we're a venue so that people can come and help, whether it's teaching classes, whether it's handing out food, whether it's sorting clothes and things over at the thrift store, peer counselors. You know, we it takes about 500 volunteer hours per week for us to operate.
Wow.
So it takes lots of volunteers.
Well, I know you've got a good board. Is Sean Miller and Tracy Binkley still on your board?
They're still on the board, and yes, we do have a strong board. Hey, let me mention something. This is our 25th year.
Yes, sir.
That we have been had Greenhouse going on the 26th of January in 1999. We got our 501c3 designation from the IRS. And so on the 26th of January, we're having a birthday party, and we'll have a cake, and we're going to cut her birthday cake and sing happy birthday to Greenhouse.
Yes.
And then also we'll be doing some tours from 10 till 2. So if someone would like to come and take a tour and see what things are like, we will also open up the one of the rooms upstairs so they could see where the guys in Living University stay.
Yes.
And so it'll be a good opportunity to come, and you know, we'd love to have as many as can make it to come, and we'll be cutting that exactly at noon.
Yes. Well, thank you for calling in. Your whole family are just such a blessing to Middle Tennessee and this community. Before I let you go, how much did it cost y'all to build that new building you built, 2 years ago? What was the total cost?
A little over $5 million.
$5 million. How many square feet?
It is 24,000.
20. If government built that, what do you reckon it would have cost?
I don't know.
50 million?
It may have.
Probably so. Well, that's what I like about the private sector, and folks can do more with less. What's that?
Yeah. Dow Smith was her contractor.
Dow's across the street, lives across the street from me. He just built our church edition.
Right. He does a great job of, doing the good finding out costs and everything. So, he and his crew really did a great job.
Yes. Well, shout out Dow Smith and his company. Well, thank you. Tell your wife and Christian family I said hello, and let me know if I can be of service, okay?
Thank you, Mike, and you have a great evening.
You too, sir. Thank you so much. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye. That was Cliff Sharp, Greenhouse Ministries. Just such a good man. You talk about, there's a God wink moment right there for a guy to have a vision. And what is it? Proverbs said, lack of vision, the people perish. And think about if he wasn't around, if his wife wasn't around. Think of how it would really affect this community in such a negative way. Well, speaking of making a positive, it's Brian, your ministry, it's Mechanics on a Mission. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Well, how long have y'all been running this?
So just 2 years. And ironically enough, we do a lot of work for Greenhouse Ministries. We have one of our partners is Christian Brothers right there on Memorial. And Andrew Slemp and his team have been doing a lot of work for Greenhouse for years. And so now they're part of Mechanics on a Mission.
Where is Christian Brothers? You said Memorial?
Right off Memorial Drive by the Kentucky Fried Chicken, right past Middle Tennessee Christian Boulevard, down past there.
Okay. On the right?
On the right, yep.
On the right, okay. I'm out of Smyrna, so I don't come up here that much on mechanical stuff. I use Dr. Automotive, Danny Brewer. Danny just hooked me up the other day. I bought an Altima the other day for my wife, and need a little work. Danny hooked me up.
Awesome.
He said, "Don't be bringing me no used alternators because I'll buy something used that's got good life, but it's so hard to put an alternator on that V6 Altima, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's expensive just to get to it, and all. It's so difficult. Well, why do you feel led to even get involved in something like this?
So in 2010, I was the head of school at Lighthouse Christian School and Preschool in Antioch, and many of you remember the devastating flood in May 1st and May 2nd of 2010, and we happened to have a building float down the interstate, I-24 that day. Yeah,
yep.
Pretty iconic
that was
picture.
Wild.
Wild.
Really
that is
crazy.
Probably an understatement. It's just hard to understate something like that, but it was absolutely unbelievable. In fact, when we were standing with Ty, and he was asking about all the water that was on our field, it was about 25 feet of water. And I was like, Ty, if I didn't see it myself, I wouldn't even believe it. I wouldn't even think this was possible. I mean, that building came from over the far corner of the building all the way onto the interstate.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Over barriers and things like that. It was
I think
across
how many
4
people
fields.
saw that.
Yeah. Well,
and then a guy, up the interstate, drowned in his car, didn't he? The 2010 flood. I mean, that whole day was just
and
surreal.
That was one of the things that, losing property and those kind of things, all that can be replaced, but the lives that were lost were really the thing that were the tragedy. And I know some families really had a hard time through that.
Yes.
But then, Extreme Makeover and all that. Extreme Maker came, and Hardaway Construction. In fact, I got my Hardaway hoodie on right now.
Okay.
Pretty excited about those guys and what they did. LP Building Solutions and so many others in our community came together, and with Extreme Makeover and ABC, built us a almost 8,000 square foot preschool in 1 week.
I remember watching that episode. I remember watching that episode on it was like a Sunday night. I was like, wow, that's local. So.
Yeah, and it impacted so many people by building that preschool back in Antioch, which is sometimes an underserved community. I was the head of school at Lighthouse for 17 years. Love Antioch, love Middle Tennessee. That when people pour out to you in your greatest time of need the way that they did, it only makes sense for us when we have opportunities to be able to find ways to give back to our community and show people in a real way the love of Jesus. A lot of times people will say, I'll pray for you, and prayer is super important, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we're not only going to pray for you, we're going to pray for you, and we're going to give you something in the name of Jesus that hopefully will help you be able to take that next step forward to success.
Yes.
And so it's been a crazy run. We've been able to give away 56 cars in little under 2 years. Our goal this year is to do 52 cars, 1 car a week. We were rolling right along until all this bad weather. We have given away 3 cars so far this year, but that's our goal. And provided we get the funding, we hope to be able to accomplish that. And we try to give those to single parents, widows, military vets, those who are working hard, who are trying to keep a roof over their head, feed their kids, be able to pay their rent. And to do that, they have to have a job. They have to have a source of income. And so that's what we're working to do. And we work with both Nelson Mazdas in town, for the Christian Brothers, all the area Tire World, Sanctuary Automotive, First Chance Tire and Brake. You have to introduce me to your buddy because we're always looking to
Danny's
expand.
A good guy.
And so we have professional techs and mechanics that when we get these vehicles, I'm not doing the work. If I did the work on your car, Mike, you would not be happy. Like you're singing Danny's praises. You would not be singing my praises. But I get to administrate it. But we have, like I said, really good techs and mechanics that do all the work. And because we want to give away blessings to people, not trouble. And they're older vehicles with higher miles. But like I said, we go through those things, full inspection, and repair what needs to be repaired to make it safe and operable. We're not always about pretty, but we're safe and operable. We can get you to and from a place.
You know, David, of the day when he brought the milkshakes up, I mean, it was so touching. I mean, it was really just. I mean, who brings milkshakes out when it's freezing outside?
Dave does.
But this guy,
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? And my sister, I started giving her that milkshake. In fact, you fed her some, and I could see her because she, you know, she's got like dementia, but she'll say, I could see her say thank you, thank you. And you know, one of the issues that I've brought up as a lawmaker is music therapy. You know, for whether it's post-traumatic stress, depression, addiction, whatever, and it's real. I mean, I didn't really believe this stuff years ago. If you'd have said, Mike, you're going to be talking about music therapy, you're going to be discussing mental health, I'd have said, no way. Because I didn't see those as conservative issues. But, you know, I've learned a lot, you know, and I'm not an artsy type guy by no means. But my sister was at the nursing home, and she was trying to escape the nursing home. I mean, it was kind of funny, but sad. You know, you have those moments, and I could hear my sister singing. She was singing "Country Road, Take Me Home to the Place I Belong" by John Denver. I was like, because she couldn't hardly speak, and all of a sudden she's singing this song, and she's trying to escape the nursing home in a wheelchair. So, and she was at the exit. So I walk up and I tap her on the shoulder, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she looked up at me. She goes, "You know how to get out of this place?" Because she wanted to go home. I couldn't help but get a little tickled about it, but she didn't know my name. But she knew the words of the song. So the day I was playing the song with my phone while she's in the hospital, and I could see her facial mannerism, kind of change a little bit. And that little song, "Friends," thank you for being a friend, and I see her lips singing the words. And I thought, man, this is pretty incredible. Like, how can you apply music to healing, or how can you apply the Department of Education called me because we had the commissioner coming in last Thursday. We had to cancel Commissioner Lisette Reynolds and some school board members, and they naturally we had to cancel. So I was telling that guy about the music therapy, the liaison. I said, man, can you run that by the Commissioner of Education? So I know it may sound crazy or odd, but we've had a hard time with third grade reading reading in general, really. And, if kids can't read, there's a strong likelihood they're going to wind up in prison. So I see it as an investment. But he said, let me run that by her. But it made such a difference. Those nurses were tickled to death, weren't they?
They were.
They were. And that hamburger was good at you. You brought a couple of hamburgers, man. Why do you do something like that, David?
Mike, I went to seminary to be in full-time ministry, and I was on staff for a while with a crew, Campus Crusade, and now I own a Steak and Shake. This was not my plan, to go to seminary to be owning a Steak and Shake. Yeah. And then I learned, people spend a third of their life at work, and you can have a huge impact, if maybe not the biggest impact, working with your employees or the customers that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I think I shared with you, I went through an Experiencing God workbook, and Blackaby said, maybe one of the greatest tragedies for believers is that we don't see God where he's at work all around us.
Yes.
So I started praying 7 words every morning. God, use me for your glory today. Just to be looking with eyes and listening for opportunities where you can meet a need.
Yes.
And then I saw that post you did on Facebook, and I thought, you know what? What's better than a burger and shake is getting a burger and shake when you're not expecting it.
Exactly.
You know, I just enjoy doing it. It brings me joy.
And what's the 7 words again?
God, use me for your glory today.
Yeah. Is that,
and that prepares me.
weakness? Is that weakness?
Is that weakness?
There's probably some people listening like, oh man, I don't believe all this Christian stuff. I don't believe all that forgiveness stuff. I don't believe all that kindness stuff. Is that weakness?
No. Once you experience it, it's like taste and see that God is good.
Yeah.
And there's just no. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. So I do that. That's just me. I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And
but kindness is hard, man. How's it?
Kindness
it's hard
is
to be kind to people who are arrogant and prideful, and I mean, I deal with it all the time in politics. Many people care more about themselves and making a dollar and their power than they do the average person. So I promise you, I witness it.
Yeah, I got a good one for you, Mike. Well, kindness is a superpower. I heard that, and that's good. But you familiar with that passage where it says, love your enemies and pray for those that persecute you?
That's difficult.
You heard this?
Yeah, it's hard.
Well, it's easy until you have to apply it.
Yes, it's true.
But
yes.
And then a good friend of mine, Russ, shared this with me. He said, think about it. If you're praying for those people that might be difficult, Mike, that might be the only prayer they ever get.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Mike, Romans 2:4 says this. It says, the kindness of the Lord leads to repentance.
Yes.
And the way people know that you really love them or that you care for them is loving them in a real way. Yeah. And that's what's going to turn their heart. Most of the people that are, like you're describing, and again, I know this is as a broad brush here, but a lot of them are describing, they're fearful. That's what, and fear causes them to act in a certain way. And when they realize they can be themselves and you can love them anyway, you're going to love them no matter what. It's something I tell my kids all the time. I love you no matter what. Yeah. It's hard. But yet when you do that, you start seeing the Holy Spirit will work on the heart and break down those walls, because they built walls around their heart.
Well, it is real. Yeah. I had a guy, I don't know if y'all know Gene Garcia. He's with Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
He's been on the radio with me. In fact,
that's fantastic.
That's how you and I met, wasn't it? At the Christian Chamber of Commerce.
That's where I met Gene, at the Christian Chamber of Commerce.
We met at a luncheon, Mike.
Yeah, he was on the radio, and he was on heroin. He was living on the streets, homeless, and he said he'd seen a van or something at Burger King, and I thought it was interesting. It said hope. He said, man, that's what I need. I need to be some hope. And he said, man, he just prayed like, Lord, heal me of this addiction. And he said he just felt something come over me. He said, you just had a healing. So, if folks don't believe that, if we could tap that, even if if it's a placebo effect or whatever, because I mean, just yesterday, David probably knows, I had to preach a funeral yesterday. Of a 30-year-old that overdosed. Yeah. Then we got a call from another mother that we know. Her son overdosed at 32. So they asked me to do the funeral, and and I'm not a pastor, but it makes me want to start cussing where our culture is gone. Because what do you tell? I'm looking at the mom, I'm looking at the dad, and it's like, how do you tell them it's going to be okay? Because it ain't going to be okay. They're going to live with this trauma the rest of their life. And part of me as a lawmaker says, man, we need to start executing drug dealers. If they're bringing fentanyl over the border, start executing them. Because I seen Mark Green, the congressman, speaking the other day at a hearing, and man, he talked about the border and all these drugs come across, all this fentanyl, because I'm sure it was fentanyl that probably killed both these kids. And I really like Congressman Green. Man, he was saying the stats are, we lost more people last year than we lost in World War I combat and then in Vietnam. And we lost 58,000 in Vietnam. Those are 22-year-old boys and 23. And now we're losing 22 and 15-year-olds and 30-year-olds of this fentanyl. But as a Christian, is that wrong to be that angry?
The Bible tells us to be angry and sin not. And so their anger is an emotion like anything else, but if it drives us to do something that would be against what God would want us to do, then but Jesus got angry in the temple and turned over the tables for the money changers, those who were selling things, doing things that were wrong. So seeing an injustice and wanting to impact it and change it, I don't think is wrong. And being angry about that, as long as we do it the right way.
Well, Jesus, I like the scripture where he talks about if anyone hurts one of these little children. It's like you're better off having a millstone tied around your neck and drown. That's strong.
Yeah.
I mean, those are, I mean, I think we forget that sometimes because, you know, we always think of the compassionate Jesus standing up for the prostitute, talking to the woman at the well, the thief on the cross. We think that, and we, you know, can relate to that, I guess. But, you know, the one about the parable about, hey, you know, you better off being drowned if you hurt one of these little children. Yep. So as a lawmaker, I'm torn sometimes because part of me is like, I just, it's like, man, look at where the country's going. And what people don't realize, all this has a financial cost. Our state prison budget has doubled since I got elected. And let me tell you, I've never met a lobbyist lobbying. I mean, now government's paying for lobbyists. You know that?
Did not know that.
Oh, it's happening. People don't realize this. Government is now, you're funding lobbyists who are lobbying to raise taxes. I don't even know why I'm doing up there if lobbyists are controlling the whole system. And then we wonder why we got $34 trillion worth of debt in this nation. I mean, this country, if we're not careful, this country is going to fall until people start standing up with a set of balls to start calling this out like we do. It just worries me. I got this new grandbaby, and I hold her. She's 1, and I just turned 1. I think, man, what kind of culture is she going to grow up in? Is there going to be a school shooting? I mean, is there going to be, how's traffic going to be? Can she even afford a home when she turns 18, 20, 30? Nobody's lobbying for affordable housing. I just see things that other people, if they see it, they're quiet. But I see it, and it just irritates the heck out of me. Like that, like it's Joy Sherrill. I don't know, a lot of folks may know Joy Sherrill. She's a realtor here in Rutherford County who lost her son. And I have my wife's texting her back and forth. And, man, because I've seen women that lose their kids. I was with the Moms Over Murder event, mainly African-American ladies, about a month ago. And, man, I heard them crying and talking about forgiveness. Other women are like, I'm not forgiven. And it was an interesting study of human behavior. These people talking about forgiveness, they're like, I ain't forgiving nobody. You know, and you see those dynamics play out, and a lot of people can't forgive.
Yeah, you're definitely not supposed to bury your kids. That's not the circle of life. It's not the way it's supposed to be. There's a lot of things have happened to me in my life, and the one thing I've just asked the Lord, I said, Lord, you can do whatever you want with me. Just please don't do anything with my kids. So I don't know how I'd even walk through that. My heart certainly goes out to those mothers who've lost their children, fathers who've lost their children. That does seem like that might be one of the most difficult things to ever have to walk through in life.
Yeah. Well, David, you know, speaking of moms, you know, you and your mother were deployed together, weren't you?
We were back in 91.
That's crazy.
It is.
It's crazy.
What was I thinking?
What was your mama thinking?
I joined the Army Reserves MASH unit, Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. My mom was a nurse at this time. I said, hey, Mom, you want to join the Army? They got a special boot camp for you old people.
This is wild.
She was 40. My perspective's changed since then.
Yes.
And
mine too.
Yeah. So she joined. And then Thanksgiving 90, our unit got activated for Desert Storm.
Wow.
And then we went to Desert Storm together. I fed my mom every day. I was a cook. My mom was a nurse.
How rare is this occurrence?
I don't. This might have happened before, but I don't know if it's ever happened.
I don't know. I've never heard of it either. Yeah.
So it's, you know, I joined just to get a little bit of money for school because we grew up broke, and
how broke were y'all?
People brought us food at Thanksgiving. I used to.
Are you the one that
no,
shared
I'm not even
that
kidding.
Story about school? Somebody shared a story, and I was talking about it the other day that they were raising like canned goods at school for the poor. Was that you? And then they delivered it to your house. You're like, I didn't realize we were that poor.
No, that was that. I didn't tell that story, but we grew up in Connecticut, and yeah, my mom was a maid at this time before she went to nursing school, and yeah. We were on that town list.
That's wild. And you think that's made you a better person, though, going through that type of hardship?
Say that question again.
You think that's made you a little bit more of a better person that you've went through that kind of hardship?
Well, I tell you what, it definitely has changed my perspective. Everything's about perspective. And I think that's one of the reasons why now I have a heart for those less fortunate and helping others and always giving. We help out the homeless there at Steak and Shake, which I didn't really want to announce that because I don't want a big old long line out the door. I'm not running a soup kitchen.
That's that balance for you.
But
How do you find a balance?
we help those, we help them out. And even with Mechanics on a Mission, I'm no mechanic either, but I want to be a part of that ministry because it's such a huge ministry. And so just the other day at Christian Brothers, I just took a bunch of milkshakes down there to Christian Brothers and just said, hey, thank you for what you do. I want to treat you all. You're giving of your time and energy to invest to fix these cars up, and I just want to encourage you all. So I just went over there and dropped off a bunch of shakes.
Yes.
So it's that's how a way I can be involved in that ministry.
Well,
and so
Dave is a huge encouragement to the guys he's gone to, just like he was to you and your family when he brought the burgers and shakes up, and how many times he's done that, but because he's walked through what he's walked through growing up, it's given him that great appreciation of the value of being able to go and fill up somebody's stomach when they're hungry.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages? Y'all have read that?
Absolutely.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I wonder how many men have read that. Probably not many.
We went through it in our church, and we'd love to be able to help people identify, how they express love and how their spouse receives love. Because although I may give love in a certain way, my spouse may receive it differently. And that book has helped so many marriages by just understanding how your spouse is wired.
Oh, yeah. It took me years to figure it out.
I'm still figuring it out.
Still
working on it. But
well,
I have those. I have them memorized because it's just to know.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with those, acts of service, gifts,
words of encouragement.
What's
touch, words of affirmation. Yeah.
Well, don't you think it's kind of the little things like those? I mean, for him to show up with some simple milkshakes, and then to see my sister in the condition she's at, that meant a lot to me. I mean, it really did. And then I see the staff doing so good, taking care of my sister, and they don't know anything about me or politics or anything, and it's so touching to see that, to see people who care. One of the nurses that you gave that milkshake to, Trish Milligan. Milligan, is that her name?
I don't remember her last name. I just remember her first name
because she went to Laverne High School. Well, she was telling me her story that she had a stroke. She went to school to be a teacher, decided really wasn't her career path, went to school to be what's it, minister,
counseling.
Yeah, counseling,
I think that's what
something
it was.
minister. And then she said she went in nursing, and she had a stroke in nursing school and had to, I guess, go through all that or learning to walk again. And here she is taking care of my sister. But she made a good point. She said, I know what it's like to be a patient. A lot of folks don't know what it's like when you need care. So when you feel pain's a great motivator. I always think of David in the Bible where they literally laughed at him. How are you going to fight Goliath? How are you going to do this? You're just a kid. And, what do you know? But he killed a lion, killed a bear, and said, God, deliver me from the paws. He'll deliver me on this day. That scripture should stick with not just men, but women as well. But, as a culture, guys, we don't talk about those things. I mean, I'm even uncomfortable talking to y'all about this because it seems kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? David's giving me this funny look.
No,
is it not
vulnerable, transparent?
Well, maybe you're vulnerable. Maybe you're being vulnerable. We got listeners, and oh man, you're being weak talking about 5 love languages, whatever. But I'll be married 35 years in April. My dad was married 5 times.
Wow.
I mean, he had to. Even Dave Chappelle talks about getting rid of half your stuff. My dad lost everything when my mom, because she was raising 5 of us, and even if it's an investment. If those little things like that, man, it's an investment. But most men, we don't learn that stuff, and that's why probably half marriages end in divorce.
But we don't understand. We look at the movies and those kind of things and see love, this very passionate type of love. And there's a part of that when it attracts you to somebody, but it's that choosing to love somebody and loving at that deeper level. Me and my wife, we've been married now for 27 years, and I love her more today than I did at first. It's not the same kind of passionate love, although there's times we were passionate, but it's this deeper, more appreciation for who she is. And just I know that if God had not brought her in my life, I would not have been able to accomplish the things that He's allowed me to accomplish. He gave me a great partner in life to be able to do life with, and now my kids are my son's 20, my daughter's 22, and they're out of the house, and we're like, hey, a lot of times marriages fall apart at that point. But we started, when the kids hit about 16, 18, we said, we better get intentional about this. Otherwise, we'll be a statistic just like anybody else. And really chose and made that choice. We're going to love each other no matter what. And we say that in our house all the time. We love you no matter what. And there's nothing that's going to change that. Nothing you can do, nothing you can say is going to change that. And we're going to choose to love you. And love, in many ways, as you get older, particularly, is a choice. It's not just a feeling, and so many times we relate love with a feeling.
How much of this is spiritual in nature? Pride and I see a lot of what I call spiritual warfare, Ephesians 6:12, and I was talking to a friend of mine, Floyd Barrett. I don't think he's going to mind me sharing this. Floyd's a good friend of mine, and he's big on Celebrate Recovery. And I said, is excessive pride part of the spiritual realm? Like, is that part of spiritual warfare? He goes, oh, definitely. He said Satan was prideful. And it struck me, I was like, because I see a lot of, I see brokenness, man, a lot. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. I start to talk to other people, and they're like, yep, I see brokenness too, whether it's at church and politics, on the school board, in state. You come up here and see all the brokenness we got up here in Nashville. It's terrible. It almost makes like, why are we doing this? Why am I even dedicating myself to doing all this stuff when it's nothing but fighting? And Antifa was in front of my house 4 years ago. They're going to come back. Maybe they are. I don't know. Beating a drum. Who wants to put your family through that kind of stuff, Yeah. So I think a lot of this is spiritual in nature.
Well, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers,
yes,
and the rulers of the darkness of this world. And that it is a spiritual thing. We often don't like to live in that reality. We want to live in the here and now, what we know, what we can see, feel, and touch.
Yes.
But there are things going on in our world that would probably blow our mind away. And in fact, I was talking to somebody today at our church. It's like, one of these days when we're in heaven, we're actually going to know what was real and what's not. Yeah, and you'll know, what was truth and what was not in some ways. But what we do count on as truth is that we know what the Word of God said is truth. Yes. And you have to have an absolute compass in truth, and that's what we have with the Word of God.
Yes, I believe it. I've got I know somebody that won't say their name on the air, but they took a picture. They kept saying they could feel a presence around them that was very negative. They literally took their phone, took a picture, and I've got the picture. If anybody doesn't believe this, I have the picture on my phone, and you can see in the background a face. Looks like a demonic face. And the same person said that they had a compass. They literally had a compass. You mentioned a compass. And they just happened to have the compass and thought, what's going on here? And they laid the compass down, and they happened to have a Bible opened up, the older Bible, and the compass didn't point north. The compass pointed to the Bible. How do you explain that?
You don't.
Talk about the compass. Our Sunday school book had a compass on the front. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Most people know that their insurance can provide them with coverage for the many life's mishaps. But I can help you also unlock discounts, save money, and get benefits with Farmers Insurance Policy Perks. Whether we're discussing home or auto insurance, I am here to help you understand these great perks. Call me, Mark Lewis, at 615-625-7070 for a quote, and you can get a whole lot of something with Farmers Policy Perks.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available at select Farmers branded policies underwritten by Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliates.
Dr. Automotive Auto Repair and Maintenance Mechanic Shop Garage provides car owners in Smyrna, Murfreesboro, Laverne, and the Middle Tennessee area with excellent auto repair services. Deep-rooted experience in serving both foreign and domestic automobiles allows for proper diagnosis in a timely manner. Check them out online at autorepairsmyrna.com, call them at 615-220-0971, or stop on in at 1205 Hazelwood Drive in Smyrna.
Hey, Rutherford County, it's Mark from the Safe House. And now the security riddle of the day. What do big box, fake safes, face masks, and Joe Biden have in common? They don't work, and they promise things that isn't true. So don't get a Joe Biden level of security. Come down to the Safe House and see what a real safe looks like. Unlike most of the other safe dealers in the area, we have safes in stock ready for delivery. And at the Safe House, gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. So drop by the store or go to NashvilleSafehouse.com. That's NashvilleSafehouse.com.
AFFI is Middle Tennessee's premier choice for pest, wildlife, and moisture control. They specialize in those difficult and unique cases. You can reach them by phone at 615-300-2395. That's 615-300-2395. Or stop in at 200 Glenrose Lane in Smyrna.
My wife and I enjoy going by Yard Sale Inc. We usually go to both locations, the one in Smyrna as well as the one in Murfreesboro. A lot of times on Saturday mornings we stop by, and their inventory changes weekly, so you never know what you're going to see, and it's mostly open box. The name fits it. It's exactly that. It's a yard sale. If you don't totally agree with the price, the staff is always friendly and nice and willing to work with you.
That's the Yard Sale store in Smyrna at 111 Enon Springs Road West, in Murfreesboro at 204 South Front Street, and online at bestdealintown.com.
Hi, this is Allie Dowenhauer with Isaiah 117 House. Isaiah 117 House provides physical and emotional support for children awaiting foster care placement here in Rutherford County. We are changing the way foster care begins, and those kiddos are brought to our house to hang out and wait for a foster family, and they're given everything they need. We support foster children, DCS, and foster families here in Rutherford County. Visit us at www.isaiah117house.com or visit our Facebook page, Isaiah 117 House, Rutherford County.
Rutherford Magazine Show. I'm your host, Mike Sparks. At break, we were talking about spiritual warfare, and I brought up the word haters. You know what haters are, Brian?
Yeah, I know what haters
are. Haters are. Dave, you know what haters are? You know what haters are?
Yes, sir.
You got some haters. You know what haters are?
Mike, I'm an Alabama fan. I know what I do.
I
deal with haters all the time, Mike.
Yeah. No, I had and this ties into Steak and Shake, and you might think, there's no way haters can tie into Steak and Shake. There's no way. Man, let me tell you this cool story, how God is in control, okay? And I hope Angela Bingham's listening right now. Maybe Angela could talk about it on her show. She comes up next at 6 o'clock. Well, my friend got killed in Iraq, Sergeant Freddie Hahn. I think he knows some of this story. And so when Steak and Shake come into Smyrna, we got the road named after Freddie, Sergeant Hahn. And I was going to buy everybody's food at lunch that day when it opened up. So I made the comment to my assistant, Marvin, and my wife. I said, I feel bad I didn't get to invite the other family whose son got killed. It was Raymond Mitchell. It's the road over by Taco Bell, it comes in Smyrna. Right then it connects to Sergeant Asbury Hahn Way. But I only knew Freddie. I didn't know Raymond Mitchell. Ray Mitchell was 21, got killed by a sniper in Iraq. And I trained Freddie to take my place at Nissan. And he come by my car lot and said, Mike, I've been deployed to Iraq. And my mother was there. My mom was a strong Christian woman, would pray over everything. I mean, if your car don't start, she'd pray over it, and it would start. I literally watched things happen. And so Mom heard him say, I've been deployed. And Freddie and my mom said, can I pray with you? So we prayed with him, and I guess it was maybe 8 months later he was killed, in Iraq. They still have the GMC truck. I sold them. I stay in touch with the family. Spencer's a close friend of mine. Angie's close. And so I had this crazy idea. I'm going to buy everybody's lunch at Steak and Shake. So buy everybody's lunch, and there was this black girl at the front, very front. Peaches is her name. And so I said, Peaches. I didn't know her. I said, do you mind? I want the family to go first. I'm going to buy the widow. I'm going to buy everybody's lunch. She goes, oh, yeah, she was really sweet. So, she sees me and she's leaving, this girl Peaches. So she leaves Steak and Shake. And she looked at me and she said, thank you for buying my lunch today. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, I just spent $100 on strangers. I don't know these people. And I said, yes, ma'am, you're welcome. And so she left. We had a good event. I had Rolling Thunder there, motorcycle group, good crowd. And one thing nothing was weird was the family of Ray Mitchell showed up. And I made the comment, I feel bad. Well, I seen the manager. I said, and young Spencer said, I think the manager invited him. The manager, I said, man, did you invite the family of Ray Mitchell? He goes, yeah. So what made you do that? He said, I was driving down the road, seen the sign, wondered who it was. He said, so I just found the family and invited them. I was like, how do you do? I wouldn't even know how to do that. Get a hold of the family. So that was very coincidental. I call it a God wink moment. But here's where Peaches comes into play. Peaches, this black girl, goes to leave. She said, thank you for buying my lunch. I said, yes, ma'am. So I had Marsha Blackburn come in that night. They said it was the best event they did. If you Google it, you'll still see it on, I think, Channel 5 and on Facebook. And good crowd. It was the night before the election, okay? And it was really, politically, that was strong. And so I told Marsha kind of what all happened. And Marsha kind of got teary-eyed, because it was really touching. And there's some backstory of Freddie that I won't get into of why I felt so led to help this, help the family. Peaches leaves. My assistant's with me, Marvin, young African-American young man. And so we're like picking up signs the day after election. So we go into Wendy's because he loves Wendy's. And Wendy's probably has the best chili, So we go into Wendy's. It was cold. I see this black girl behind the counter. I'm like, you look familiar. She goes, yeah, you bought my lunch yesterday. I'm buying y'all's lunch today. Wow. I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. So then we go to sit out, and we're sitting at Wendy's. And my main hater, this dude was hating. He was hating on me for naming roads after veterans. This is how, talk about spiritual warfare, pride. Who hates on somebody and makes fun of them for honoring someone who was killed in Iraq? But an extreme hater. That's full of devils, what my mom say. So I see this hater, and I waved at him. And what's the odds of this hater seeing me in Wendy's? Well, he waved. I waved at him. So I whipped out my debit card real quick. And I said, hey, Peaches happened to be standing with us, which is rare. What's Peaches out here sit with us at the front? So I said, here, I'm going to buy that guy's lunch. And my assistant said, oh, no, you ain't, man. You ain't buying this guy's lunch. And he was tripping out like, no way. So she said the hater, he drove up, and she goes, hey, your state lawmaker just paid. Remember, he had tried to work against me. The state representative just paid for your lunch. She goes, no, he can't be buying my lunch. And so he was outside, and I walked out there, and I said, brother, this is called karma. What goes around comes back around. And but my mom always told me that kindness is like heaping hot coals on somebody's head, which you would think, why is that in the scriptures? But it's in the scriptures. Yeah. Why is that?
Well, I think that when you are able to, anybody can love somebody who loves them. It takes Jesus in your heart to love somebody who hates you, someone who despitefully uses you, who persecutes you. And that love only comes from Jesus in your heart, and a life that's followed after him, to love people who are mistreating you. And that's hard.
Yeah.
That's super. Forgiveness is a tough thing. A lot of times it's a process. But over and over again, the Bible talks about forgiving people. You talked about the mothers who had lost their sons and daughters, and some could forgive and some couldn't. If we don't forgive, then we can become very bitter. And bitterness is like a cancer in our heart, and it hurts us. And so the more that we can figure out how to let go of those things, of people that have hurt us, and by doing something, putting action to what your thought and words are, helps your heart to follow along with your actions. The Bible says this, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Put your words, action, and money into something, your heart will follow. So if it's not there, and if it's to your enemies, your heart will follow, and you'll learn to love them, even when it's hard. Even when, and let me tell you, there's some hard things we have to do in life.
Oh man, it is hard. There's a guy in politics. It's speaking of haters, just like an extreme hater. He's got a website full of hate. And I was mowing the grass about 2 years ago, and part of me wanted to get back at the guy because I know the guy's got a pass, and here he is throwing stones at everybody. I was mowing the yard, and part of me is like my dad. My dad was World War II, seen a lot of combat, and just very bitter. He's married 5 times. And the other side of me is like my mom. Pray for people, forgive them, kindness, that sort of thing. So I've got this struggle internally, like a lot of guys do. And I was mowing the grass, and then I thought to myself, I wonder if that guy bought his domain name. I bought his domain name. He never bought the full domain name. I'm not going to say. I don't even know if the guy knows. He may know now because I'm talking about on the radio. You know what I mean? But what are the odds of me just coming up with this idea, I'm going to buy the guy's domain. Who doesn't buy their domain name? But he never bought the domain name. It's crazy. And, he tried to give me a hard time a little bit. But, I'm not going to go I don't want to go nuclear on him. I mean, I could go nuclear if I wanted to, meaning I could really come up with some things. But part of me don't want to do that. Part of me is like, pray for that dude, and then part of me is like, get him back. And then part of me is like, no, pray for him. It's hard.
Yeah, one of my former pastors said you go to every situation with 2 buckets in your hand, one with gasoline, one with water.
Yeah.
And you decide which one you want to throw on it. I've learned the water is a whole lot better because I've thrown the gas a couple times, gone nuclear, as you mentioned, and it's a disaster. I mean, nobody wins in those situations. And, by throwing water and by showing them the love of Jesus, I mean, the tangible, real love of Jesus, how he loved people, even those, he's on the cross and his last words, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Man, you think how hard that'd be.
Incredibly hard.
Then what did he tell the thief on the cross?
Yeah.
What did he tell him?
He told me that he'd be with him today in paradise. He forgave him, and he said, you're going to be with me today. So,
well, you think if you psychoanalyze Jesus, I don't know if anybody's tried to do it, I've tried to do that in my head about David, of him being sold out by his brothers, or Joseph being sold out, but then he forgave his brothers. But, you think if Jesus wasn't who he was, he had to have been the greatest, magician, the greatest con man. I mean, there's you either got to say the guy's who he said he was, or he was the greatest con man. Have you ever heard an analogy like that?
Absolutely. Well, and you're bringing up so many things that we talked about today in our church service, and one of the things we reminded people is that people don't die for a lie.
Yeah, exactly.
And all 12 disciples suffered horrendous deaths, and they didn't recant.
Yes.
And that is such great proof that Jesus is who he said he was, that Jesus is God, and Jesus is the only, I'm the way, the truth, and life. No man come to the Father but by me.
Yeah.
And, that those disciples who saw that he conquered death, they witnessed that.
Yes.
They saw him alive after death, that they would not recant, and they would be, Peter was crucified upside down.
Yeah.
And you see these deaths that they had to suffer, but yet they would not walk away and recant from what they saw and what they knew to be truth, which is Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Jeremy, what's your take on all this? I know you're a strong believer.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here taking it all in. I do have my own opinions on some of these things. A lot of it just does align with you, so a lot of what you're saying is what I believe in. But I am not a perfect Christian by any means. Nobody is. I'm the type of person who wants to give people what's coming to them if I believe that's sort of thing. But at the same time, the Bible says, turning the other cheek. That's something that I got to work on. I like to hold grudges. I like to hold judgment, and it's just something I got to work on. And it's a day by day thing, Mike.
Well, you look at if you get into looking at trauma, whether it's sexual trauma or trauma, post-traumatic stress, and if healing, I would see as an investment. I think it would help us cut down on crime. I think you'd have a less revenge and vengeance on folks' lives, and look at all the people that's in there because of anger. They've lost. They're sentting a life sentence for murder, and that's what's costing us. I mean, they've ruined their life because they had a short fuse. Before we go, I wanted to give a shout out to Jeff Neal with some of his writing in sports column here. I was looking at the story about Smyrna Bowling. I want to give them a shout out before we go, as well as Seagull Boys edge out Oakland in overtime. And Jeff Hollingshead, Ben Weatherford, and Andy Womack for the Rutherford County Distinguished Award recipients. Brian, David, thank you so much for coming on the air.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll have y'all back soon. Thank y'all so much. We'll see y'all next week.